start with a big picture question about why should we invest in women? Why? Why is it important? What's the economic impact? What are we talking about? I mean, is it because women are consumers? Like, why should we be investing in women?
There are so many different, it's very layered, but I mean, one of the best reasons is that, you're investing alongside the demographics of the people who are consumers, the people who use services, the people who make decisions in the household. So really for us, number one reason we think to invest in women-led businesses that are creating products and services that women are the main buyers, is just the financial opportunity. The upside there is massive. It's been underinvested in for years and years, and that's where there's a lot of returns to be made.
I mean, women control 85% typically of the purchasing decisions in a household. That's a huge number. There is a massive amount of influence there. So investing behind women-led businesses who are creating products or solutions that other women will identify with across the age spectrum, across the social spectrum, et cetera, is critical. You put capital into their businesses, they're creating more jobs, paying more women who are selling more products and services, and you can see how that cycle gets going, the flywheel effect gets massive, and it just keeps turning. That's why we love the category too, and they're investing in a lot of women-led businesses.
I think for many of us, we have a tendency to have tunnel vision when it comes to some opportunities. And I think being able to invest in other women does have a trickle-down effect. We invest in one woman, that woman invests in another woman, and literally we end up changing the entire ecosystem. So I think there's an opportunity for all of us to go a little bit out of our comfort zone and approach the narrative that we are the consumers. We are the ones that do the budgets at home. We are the CFOs of our household. So if there's an opportunity to invest in women that are making all of these financial decisions, then why not take it? Why not help women invest in other women?
Absolutely. I agree with everything you just said. Okay, so what is happening currently in the investment community to turn the tide and get more funding in the hands of women? Let's talk about the movement, like all of us that are working towards this. Sarah, do you want to jump in?
Sure, I'll start because I know there's plenty to say on the topic. Not enough is the answer. There's not enough capital going into both organizations that are investing in women-led businesses, much less the women-led businesses themselves. So I focus on venture capital, which is an early stage area of investing and supporting companies. The statistic we may all hear about is abysmal. It's 2% of capital in the venture capital community goes to women.
I think one of the biggest challenges we as women face is actually seeing ourselves as investors. We often see our male counterparts as investors, and one of the reasons that we exist, my company exists, is our hashtag is the future of wealth is women. And the reason we have that mindset is because we do believe that the collective, within the next 10 years, $30 trillion is going to be passed from the boomers to women. And that money can go and do a lot of good if we actually essentially talk to each other and actually educate ourselves on the opportunities that are out there. I think a lot of the issues that we run into as women when it comes to investing is that we don't have peers to talk with, we don't know enough, we don't have access, and that's why communities like mine exist, is so that women can actually get together, have conversations, ask the right questions, and really talk about wealth. It seems like wealth and investing is a dirty word in our economy and just in the U.S. here, and I wish more women realize that it's not a dirty word. It's okay to think about money. It's okay to think about wealth, and it's okay to talk to your girlfriends, to talk to your business peers about how you're doing financially. We have a tendency to really look at money and look at wealth as a personal, secretive thing that we should be ashamed of. And I think when communities get together, when women communities get together, I can't tell you the number of conversations we had. Last night we did a Q&A with an all-women-led musical team, the producers and the stars. And the Q&A was amazing. The women had such amazing questions for the team. Questions, we were all bouncing off questions off of one another. Questions that if we were by ourselves, we probably wouldn't have been able to think about all of them by ourselves. So there is something to be said about that hive and being able to actually feed off of each other as a community and essentially co-invest and look at the next opportunities.
I love it. I'll just add, to normalize angel investing is great because angel investing is a risky form of investing, but the more you do it, the more you have that muscle and you have a portfolio, and one will definitely start to pan out. And if you're in the right, you're in the course of business, in your course of business, you see a lot of things, a lot of ways that consumers behave. And so if you have a hunch that this is something that could be big, and you know the founder and you have access to them, or because you're a woman, a lot of founders will want to put you on their cap table, have you invest. That's an edge that you do have right now too. I think we want to normalize that. I worked with family offices and in philanthropy for a while too, and women will just easily pay $100,000 for a table at a gala because it's giving, it's not investing. But then if you come to her for a $100,000 investment, it's that's not something that we're comfortable with here. So I think there are boot camps, there are venture funds that absolutely want to help even the smartest of women. You could be the most powerful woman in banking, and sometimes you don't understand the nomenclature of investing. It's not because you don't know how to understand it. You shouldn't. There's no reason why you should. But I think normalizing that and understanding how you're investing in our everyday companies is important.
Yeah, don't let totally doubling down, don't let the unfamiliarity about how you might understand a business and the business model, how they plan to make money, prevent you from wanting to learn. You can find great organizations in your communities. These angel networks are kind of loose confederations of people who share a common interest in investing and supporting a company. But through the crowd of the people that are involved in that group, you can really figure out how to diligence an opportunity, to really understand where you guys think the risks are, where you think there's real opportunity, and then make your own individual investment decision. That's an amazing feeling. I mean, what power you have to start directing some of your capital into these pockets of real opportunity where you're now focused and advocating for your own financial health and wellness, just like you would your physical or your kind of nutritional health and wellness. Your financial health and wellness is a big, big part of how you're going to provide for your family and how you're going to provide from there on.
One other exciting point I'll say too is if you have a seat of power, influence in other areas, maybe it's not just wealth, but you have a magazine or a platform and you put $5,000 or $10,000 into a consumer company and you're an angel investor, and then you decide, you know what, I can use my platform to actually help propel that business. We have some businesses that the smallest checks are their biggest helpers because they have a platform and the power. And so you don't realize you actually have the ability to influence the outcome of that investment, which is huge. A larger fund doesn't even have that power. So not to underestimate the size of the check too, especially in the beginning.
Well, and I think a big part of this too is, one, we don't talk about money enough. We are not all just, when you think about, I think about the conversations my husband has with his friends, they talk about money all the time. We need to be talking about money and asking each other questions and being more comfortable with those conversations. That's how we learn. That's how we discover opportunities. That's how we find our way to this. Mina has created a group of women who are investing collaboratively together in a variety of different ways. But there's some really interesting things happening within the investment community in that, in addition to angel groups that have existed for a while and more that are rising, we're seeing the development of SPVs that are enabling groups of women to come together under one entity and come in at a lower point of barrier to an investment opportunity. And in fact, that's how Sarah and I met, is through a company she invested in that was raising an SPV. So I was in the room like this with, 30 other women who were very interested in learning about how to start investing. And the founders presented, and they're going to be here today, a womaness, they were presenting their product and their opportunity in the room. And it was just, right, an exciting way to think about learning or starting or, kind of getting into investing at a much lower $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 versus, a bigger barrier to entry, and also that camaraderie in the room. But Mina, I wanted you to talk a little bit about your group and what kind of investing you're looking at and how you guys are working collaboratively together.
So my company is called the RainMakers Collective. My background is, I'm a former financial advisor. I was an advisor for many, many, many years. I'm not going to tell you what year I started. I'm going to age myself. But what we do is we actually invest in alternative investments such as art, collectibles, theater, film, as well as also traditional women-led businesses. And the reason I started the company was because I was encountering a lot of my clients that were older, i.e. my age and older, that were realizing that, you know what, I reached a certain level of success at work, but I feel like there's still something missing, right? There's something missing. And one of the reasons I really started this company was I wanted more women to realize that there's an opportunity to invest. The barrier to entry for most investment opportunities is not necessarily $100,000, $1 million, $5 million per individual, right? It could be as little as 5,000, 10,000, or even 2,000, right? Yesterday, our call, they said just put in 5,000, and our members were like, hallelujah, I get to be a co-producer in a musical, great. You know, I think for a lot of people, we think the barrier to entry is so high, but that's why a collective exists. We literally go in together. Not only are we helping to diversify your portfolio, but it's also an opportunity for us to lower the risk and exposure to that particular project, right? And for me, as a woman, as a mom of two, our goal is to set the examples for our little kids, and I have two little girls, and I want them to know that, you know what, you don't have to know everything about money. You don't have to know everything about wealth. You can actually lean on other women to support you. You can lean on other women to actually invest and co-invest and actually do something meaningful and do something really impactful and do some value-based investing.
I don't want to assume that everybody knows. Will you explain an SPV just quickly?
Yeah, it's the acronym is a special purpose vehicle. That's what it means. I won't get into the SEC side of what that means, but it's an entity that you as an individual will invest in. Then that entity takes a position in that company's cap table or ownership structure. So what it looks like from the company's perspective is there aren't 50 investors directly in my company. There's one through that particular entity. And it's a fabulous way to democratize access to opportunity that you might not otherwise get, because sometimes the minimums that investors want to see directly investing in the business is at least $100,000. Again, for SEC-related kind of complications and layers we don't want to get into. But that's what these SPVs have done. There are also great platforms out there that have developed, making the paperwork and the processing of the SPV whole process a lot easier on the people who are going to end up kind of running it for you.
And both of your funds, you invest in specific marketplaces. I wanted to talk about the development of, how long it takes, like 10 years to create a marketplace. And I wanted to talk about women's healthcare. Like, for example, it's taken about 10 years for that marketplace to really be strong, for people really to be looking at the TAM. But we feel like we just suddenly heard about it, right? Like, we're all suddenly hearing about investments in the women's healthcare, but it's really been a 10-year process to get here.
At least.
Yeah.
It's still going.
Well, I'll say one thing. Right now is an exciting time because there are more women-led funds than ever before in venture capital. So we're both in venture capital. There have been women in PE, but it's not a lot. So people now are able to run their fund. Now, a fund structure is by nature, especially if you're early stage, a 10-year hold period for your investments. So if you're investing in something that's a pre-seed or seed company, your first check into a company, you're going to see that mature in 6 to 8 years. And it seems like a long time, but it actually happens pretty quickly. And some of the companies that you see, Tia Health, Maven, some of the more consumer-focused ones, they started in 2016, 2017. I mean, it's taken a long time to mature. But when I first saw Tia, that's one of our investments, it was a chat bot for women to talk about birth control. And then all of a sudden, she overwhelmingly saw women were didn't know where to go to get a gynecologist or any women's-based healthcare. And she said, there's no primary care for women's specific issues. And we're 51% of the population. So it just kind of snowballed in that regard. And now, now they're almost $1 billion in valuation, and they're all over the place. And I think it shows that there are nascent fields that you think everything's been invented under the sun, and then you're like, how is that not a thing yet? And fertility is already a $23 billion opportunity, and it's projected to double that in the next 5 years. And we're going to see a lot of innovation in these areas that, when 88% of investment decision makers don't have these issues or problems, you don't see the problem or the challenge. And then when you do have investors who look differently and have a different lived experience, you see different value propositions. And so one thing I'll say is that if you see a fund or you see a product or company that you really like, look up on crunchbase.com, see who the investors are, see if there's a fund there that's a women-led fund, see if they have other portfolio companies that you might like, and then see what they're doing and investing in. They might let you invest alongside them. And it's just an exciting time now because there are a lot more. There's smaller funds and they take a lot of time to build a track record, which is why, it's taking some time, but it's getting there. Sorry.
No, I mean, yes. There are so many ways to participate in what we're talking about here. We've got 3 examples of a particular type of product that you could invest in. As Heather said, our business is a long-term one, and that's why we would suggest you allocate a smaller amount of your capital to venture class that's higher risk. It's going to take time for us to generate return for you, but we're also focusing on a much higher kind of reward for taking that early stage risk. We're definitely trying to beat the market, what the S&P and the Dow are doing, because those are big mature companies that are growing. But it's a lot of fun. And also to what you said, invest in what you like and what you're consuming, whether it's a product in beauty, food, alcohol, or other, or it's you love the theater. Finding those opportunities in art, I completely agree.
Real estate.
Absolutely. Do the thing, start with what you really are excited by, what you also feel you understand the use case around. And then you can find the opportunity or other investors or others who, with that swell of kind of building understanding around how you might diligence that opportunity, you get more and more comfortable. It's a reps kind of game. We've been doing this for a long time, so to be able to talk about it is a second kind of language and second nature to us. But it's so much fun. It's collaborative, with the kind of part of the capital stack that we like to invest in, because we're all trying to make these companies thrive and succeed.
And find communities. Look for communities like RainMakers Collective or, angel communities that you can be a part of. They're in every city. We are working on that here. Be part of this community. We are sharing opportunities and things that we learn and people we're meeting, and we're just trying to make sure everybody's in the conversation. The more we're talking about this, the more that we're looking at opportunities and ways for women to grow their wealth and invest in things that you're passionate about. It's good. And, fund managers need investors too. So don't forget about them. We need more LPs, right?
Yes.
Let's say, as far as the community aspect goes, the community provides you access, right? And it provides you access not only to the opportunities, the deal flow, but also to other members. You can actually lean on the expertise of a lot of the angel groups that I belong to. I lean on the expertise of the other angel members. If someone's in healthcare, I'm going to go and ask a ton of questions because you know what? That's not my background. My background is finance. I understand fintech. Healthcare, not so much. The little that I do know, I get from my brother and sister who are also in healthcare as well. So I think being able to actually go into these communities and actually participate in a different way and focus on education and connecting and networking can save you a lot of headaches later on.
And it's natural to women specifically too to do that. So that's what's so great is that we do have the Whisper networks. We should be able to capitalize on that because it's really valuable.
This is great information. Thank you all for being here today. We truly appreciate your insight.